It's always comical to me when I hear Drysuit divers say, Dave, I don't need a P-valve. And yet here they are frantically rushing to remove their Drysuit, doing the Drysuit dance at the end of their dive. Just rock the P-valve. And if you're coming out of the water with a wet leg, but your Drysuit pressure tests show no obvious leaks, and guess what? Your P-valve might need servicing. Up next, we take a look at the Light Monkey Balanced P-valve, the advantages, the disadvantages, how to troubleshoot it, how to clean it, and most importantly, how to service it. And men, guess what? We may have to take a hit on our egos if we want to become great P-valve divers. How is this supposed to work? I'm Diver Dave. I've still got coffee, but not too much coffee. And you know we're about to get into it. Let's go. Okay, quick question to all the Drysuit divers watching. How many of you are actually rocking the P-valve? Drop a yes or no in the comments below, and I'd love to see the feedback. And as always, every time I decide to do a video topic, I always tend to go down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out a bit of the history on whatever it is that I'm covering. And sadly, there's not a whole lot of history on the P-valve. What we do know is that divers in the mid-1800s were already diving completely sealed. And so how did they actually do it when nature called? Well, it sounds like they had about 3 solutions. 1, divers would just simply dive underhydrated, so probably not good. Number 2 is they had some sort of rudimentary absorption pad solution. And then number 3, of course, there actually was no solution. And so I'm going to imagine that things probably got a little bit messy pretty quickly. So certainly not cool. But as diving progressed, it was a matter of time before someone MacGyvered a way of using medical external catheters in the diving world. And somewhere around the mid-1990s, P-valve started to make an appearance in the deep wreck diving and cave diving communities. Kind of makes sense because a lot of the advancements that we actually use today in diving came from those 2 communities. So like I said, not a whole lot of history there, and P-valves and condoms in general is kind of funny and awkward, and usually it's a topic that not a whole lot want to talk about. Okay, let's take a quick look on how a P-valve actually works, in theory, of course. And there are 2 parts. Part 1 is the actual P-valve assembly itself, which gets installed internally inside your Drysuit. And then there is a small hole cut into one of your legs of your Drysuit where the P-valve actually attaches to. From a P-valve perspective, you can either get this installed directly when you buy your Drysuit new from the manufacturer, which is what I recommend, because even if you're not going to use a P-valve initially, it's at least there for you when you're ready to give it a try. But after the fact is okay as well, but like I said, it does require cutting a very precise hole in one of the thigh areas of your legs. And so I would recommend taking it to a dive shop professional and someone who has experience actually installing P-valves. I can tell you personally, there is no way I would trust myself to cut that precise of a hole. And it's kind of like a one-shot deal. So yeah, take it to a professional. The P-valve itself consists of the valve, which is installed on one of the legs. It has a rubber tube. And then of course it has some sort of fitting on the end that actually runs up the leg into the crotch area of the diver. And then this fitting is what attaches to part 2 of our story. And this is the fun part of the P-valve equation. And that is the medical grade self-adhesing external catheter, or what I like to call the sticky condom. And it, of course, attaches to the tip on the tube, which allows the whole flow to happen. And I'll post up a picture here of what these actually look like out of the bag. Now, men, this is where the ego portion of the video begins. Because while size does not matter, correct sizing absolutely does. This is not a place for optimism. This is just a place for correct fit. Size it and test it properly, and do not allow this to become a pride-based dive equipment decision. Good luck. All right, there are actually a couple of options in terms of actually how the external catheter or the sticky condom attaches to the end of the tube. I actually use a Light Monkey quick disconnect system. I find it very convenient when I'm attaching it all in place at the dive site, and I'll post a quick video here of actually what that quick disconnect looks like. So this is actually the quick disconnect. It has a 2-part assembly where you can see this actually gets attached to the catheter end, and this with a press valve actually gets pushed in and clicks in like that. Okay, once the diver is attached to the condom and the condom is attached to the P-valve tube. Then the tube runs down the leg to the P-valve, which is installed in the Drysuit. This, if it's open, that's a big deal. If it's open, will allow flow outside into the water. It's actually pretty simple. Okay, I mean, that's it. The awkward part is now over. Now I'm going to say there is definitely a learning curve in terms of how to prep and how to learn how to dive a P-valve. But once you get the hang of it, you will be on your way to becoming a safe and competent P-valve diver. But there is no certification for this, by the way. A quick 613 Dive channel ask. If you feel the video content is delivering, please take a moment, hit the like button. Drop me a comment below. I mean, I love reading the comments. And of course, hit the subscribe button if you want to stick around. Honestly, my intent of this channel is to hopefully have it become a solid dive resource. And last but not least, thank you to all of the new subscribers who are continuing to come on board. It is much appreciated. Okay, so it just so happens that it's time for me to install the new service kit on my Light Monkey P-valve, because guess what? I actually have a leaky left leg, and the Drysuit pressure tests are all positive. So we're going to head on over to the workbench where my Drysuit is on the table. We're going to remove the P-valve out of the Drysuit. We're going to put it on the workbench, install the Light Monkey service kit. We'll reinstall it on the Drysuit, and then I'll show you actually how to test it to ensure that it's going to work correctly. So let's head over to the bench and we'll take it from there. Okay, keep in mind that we don't actually have to remove the P-valve in order to install the new service kit. Step one is we have to remove the small little retainer screw on the front of the P-valve, and we do that with a 3/32 Allen key wrench. So you can see that the set screw is right there. We don't need to completely remove it, but we do need to sort of bring it most all the way out so that we can actually remove the P-valve knob. And this should just screw completely off. And once it's off, it'll expose the small little flapper. The next is that we have to remove the locking nut. All right, so now that those two things are removed, I should be able to reach my hand on the inside of the Drysuit and pull out the P-valve assembly. Now that we've got the entire P-valve assembly removed, we can actually head to the bench, clean it, and install the new service kit. Now that we've got it all sitting on the bench, it makes it very easy to work on. And you can see that we do have a new service kit from Light Monkey. And in this service kit, it comes with a new O-ring, a new flapper valve, and also what they call this little white duckbill valve, which is really the important piece for having a balanced P-valve. And so what we've got to do is we've got to remove the old O-ring, the old flapper valve, and what we've got to do is also remove the old duckbill valve and the retaining washer that sits behind that set screw. So first, we focus on the O-ring and the flapper valve. So we'll remove the old O-ring and we'll put it, and now we should be able to just sort of pull out this little flapper valve. Okay, so now you can see that that has a little tiny nipple on the end that actually sits inside that hole. Now we can go ahead and remove this set screw to get to the duckbill valve. And this is a 3/16 Allen key. And so now if you take a look inside there, you can really start to see that there is a lot of crud and stuff that's built up over time. So we're going to remove those out, which is right now what we're looking at is the top of this little new white retaining washer. And then underneath that sits the duckbill valve. Okay, so we can see that that little white washer is now out. And if we take a look inside that duckbill valve, wow, that is actually pretty dirty. And so even though I'm pretty good at cleaning after every dive, we can see this thing is in a pretty sad state. So now we'll go and do this another thorough clean under the sink, and we'll get ready to install the new duckbill valve as well as the new retaining washer. Okay, one thing that didn't make it in the video was that I actually soaked the whole P-valve assembly overnight in a bucket of water with one of these stearamine disinfecting tablets. The entire assembly was out of the Drysuit anyway, so it was a good opportunity to get it done. Okay, so now that we've got it clean, we've got it dry, we actually blew it out with the compressor hose. Now we can install the new duckbill valve and the little white retaining washer. That just can simply be pushed down like that. So it sits, make sure it sits nice and even in the groove. Now we can go ahead and install our little white washer. We want to be pretty gentle so we don't actually break the duckbill valve itself, like that. And now we can go back and reinstall the set screw. And we want to be careful with the set screw that this is hand tight so that it's not actually crushing down on that white washer and then also distorting that duckbill valve. Hand tight. Now that we've got that, we can go ahead and put the new flapper valve in. Okay, like that. We can go ahead and put the O-ring in, just like that. And with that, the service kit installation is complete. And I know we might have some experienced Drysuit P-valve divers in the mix here. So what is your P-valve maintenance routine? Drop some comments below, because this is how we will all learn. All right, now that we've got everything put together, we've got two things we can do to actually test to make sure things are working. Number one, we want to test the duckbill valve. And number two, we want to make sure that the flapper valve is actually sealing. Okay, so let's test the duckbill valve first. And the way we do that is we completely close the P-valve down. We're going to blow into this side. And we want to make sure there is no air coming out of this opening of the duckbill valve. So we'll give it a quick try. And there is no air coming out of the duckbill valve opening. So that's a good sign. So we know that the duckbill valve is seated and working correctly. All right, step two is we want to actually test the flapper valve. So now we can actually open up the P-valve as if we are going to use it. We are going to put a thumb over the duckbill valve opening. And now we're going to suck on this end. And there should be no air that is allowed to be pulled through. And again, there is no air. So overall, I feel like the service kit was a success, and that we have a good chance of this P-valve working correctly once it's back on the suit. But now we got to get it back on the suit. So let's head on over back to the work table. Okay, now that we're back on the Drysuit, we can now refeed the P-valve assembly up through the hole. We took a bit of time to actually clean this hole. Like that. We're going to put the locking nut back in. Now we can go ahead and install the Delron cap. We can now secure the locking screw. Hand tight is fine. And now we need to basically test this valve with the Drysuit being under pressure. Okay, now that we've got our Drysuit under pressure, we're going to use a solution of just soapy water. Looks pretty good to me. At this point, it's time to give it a dive test, because that's the only way you're really gonna know. Okay, this is now a perfect segue into my last discussion point, and that is my Drysuit, because of the work that was just done to it. I mean, I removed and then reinstalled the P-valve. It is now what I would consider in a compromised or untested state. The fact that I did a successful bubble test on the bench is great, but it's just simply not enough. So now would be a great time to get a few practice dives in at my local dive spot to ensure Drysuit functionality before signing myself up for some sort of important dive event. That could be a dive charter, it might be a dive weekend, it might be a dive course, or it might even be a dive vacation. But one thing I know for sure is that Murphy is always looking for an opportunity to send you home early because you forgot to prepare accordingly. I'm just saying. Okay, let's settle this one in the comments. Is a P-valve the game changer, or is it just too much of a hassle? Drop your comments below. I cannot wait to read them. Let's take a look at what's in my P-valve toolkit inside my dive truck. Number one, of course, spare dive condoms. That's a must. Number two, we definitely need spare quick disconnect tips. Number three, once the dive is done, we've got to clean the P-valve. A mix of water and vinegar. And we also need a way of getting the mixture into the P-valve tube. And so we use this little squirty bottle to have enough pressure to push it down the tube. And last but not least, a pair of scissors. And now you're going to say, hey Dave, why the hell would I need a pair of scissors, especially in that area? And so now I am going to sacrifice a sticky condom so that I can show you a quick tip. So you can see these are sealed bags. And what I have found over the years is that this has a tendency to kink if you're not careful during your dive. And trust me, the last thing you want during a dive is to pee and find out that your hose is kinked. And so what I do before installing the P-valve condom is that I trim the tip. So I usually cut it right around there. And now I have a whole lot less possibility of this kinking up on me during a dive. So I hope this helps. Up next, we'll head over to the Drysuit and I will actually show you how to rinse your P-valve out once your dive is done. So we're gonna fill our squeezy bottle up with our cleaning solution. Halfway is usually pretty good. And now we can use this to squirt it through the top of our P-valve hose once our dive day is done. So if we do this correctly, we squirt it in here and it should come out our P-valve on the bottom on our leg. Let's take a look. And there we go. We give it a nice fresh rinse, as you can see. And that should be enough after every dive to keep your P-valve nice and clean. There you have it. If you're a Drysuit diver and you don't have a P-valve, what is stopping you? Is it cost, complexity, fear, or are you just simply white-knuckling those long dives? Drop a comment below, and I'm looking forward to reading the responses. Okay, let's take a minute to talk about the pros and the cons of diving with a P-valve. And of course, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is better pre-dive hydration habits. I always try to stress safer diving habits here on 613 Dive, and I routinely see some Drysuit divers under-hydrating themselves just to ensure that there are no accidents on their dive. The P-valve certainly provides an opportunity to improve those pre-dive habits. Number 2 pro, of course, improved comfort on long dives, especially cold water, longer dives, cave dives, wreck dives, or dives that actually have deco obligations. The last thing you would want to think about on those type of dives is having to end the dive early so that you can go and take a break. Reduces distractions during your dive. I mean, this one is pretty obvious. You have a whole lot of other things to worry about other than taking a bathroom break. So definitely that's a pro for me. And this one I can really appreciate as well. Extremely useful for instructors and working divers. Great for long days teaching in the water or like you're having to do a ton of repetitive dives. Out of all the pros we just talked about, for me, probably the hydration one would be the most important. And now let's just talk about the cons. We'll get them over and done with. Because obviously by now you've probably realized that I am pro P-valve. But I'm going to try my best here. So yes, it does require cutting a very precise hole in your Drysuit. We talked about that. Make sure if you're going to get it done by a professional. Obviously, we have to add costs to the con list. I mean, the P-valve itself is going to be somewhere between $200 and $300. Then you have to pay for the install. Then you've got the maintenance cost, the service kits, and of course, condom costs. Because even if you buy a box of 100 to save dollars, roughly it's going to work out to be about $3 per condom. And so it certainly adds up over the course of a dive season. Another con for sure is going to be maintenance. It is now yet another piece of dive equipment that now needs to be maintained on an ongoing basis. And as we saw from our service kit segment that we filmed earlier, there is a bit of effort there in order to maintain that P-valve. Oh boy, here's a good one. This one actually happened to me back in the day. Potential for kinks and blockage. And sadly, the last thing you want to do is become one with your P-valve, that you now rely on the P-valve to be there for you during a dive, only to find out you send a bit down the chute and suddenly you realize, uh-oh, the chute is blocked. This is not a cool feeling at all. And I'll tell you, it was not a fun experience. Of course, adds another layer of complexity to your pre-dive routine. And last but not least, awkward learning curve. Nobody starts to rock a P-valve and it's just easy. It just takes time. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have a bit of discipline. You're going to have to come up with your own sort of prep and installation routine. But once you've got it down and you've had a few successful dives with your P-valve installed properly, trust me, there's no going back. So those are my pros and cons of diving with a P-valve. But if you think I've missed some stuff, I'd love to hear about it. Put them in the comments below and I'll certainly check them out. And just like that, we are at the end of another 613 Dive video. I'll say it's not the most glamorous video this time around, but I certainly enjoyed shooting it. I've been diving with a P-valve for about 5-6 years now, and it would be hard for me to dive without one. For me, it brings a ton of value, but yes, that also means it brings complexity and some added cost. So I'll leave it up to you to make your own informed decisions. And as always, I'd like to do a quick shout out for everyone who has watched the videos. You've hit the like button, you've added comments, you've hit the subscribe button. It is just super cool to continue to see our YouTube channel growing. And for that, I say thank you. I'm Diver Dave. Practice hard, dive safe, and we'll see you at the dive spot. Take care. And sadly, there's whole lot. Come on now. Let's go. What we do know, I did not expect this video to be that long.
And we just lost our camera.
In one of your thighs. And this is the fun part of the P-valve. Self-adhesive, sticky. Let's try it again. Okay, let's talk. Because if I do that, now I'm looking back quick. It's like, bam. That sounds like the last one. I feel like we need to combine those two. I tried to make it short, and I just couldn't get there. Okay, let's take a few minutes to talk about the pros and the cons of diving with a P-suit. Or either diving with a dry valve or diving with a P-suit. So it's got to be one or the other. Hey, how are you? Not too bad. Sounds good. Okay, we'll be here. Well, hey, we just got a call. We got to pick up Wendy's car tires. You got to do what you got to do. It started off by let me just make a quick P-valve service video. And here we are 17, 18 minutes later, and it just kept going. Like, it just kept giving. It is what it is, man. It is what it is.